The world had changed. Cities, once bustling centres of life and noise, were now desolate graveyards overtaken by nature and fear. The fungal infection had spread like wildfire, turning humans into mindless, monstrous creatures that roamed the streets in search of their next victim. It had been years since the outbreak, and what was left of humanity was fragmented, struggling to survive in a world that had turned against them. In the heart of what used to be a vibrant city, Alex, a grizzled survivor in his 40s, navigated through the decaying buildings with practiced ease. His eyes, hardened by years of witnessing atrocities, scanned the surroundings for any signs of danger. He had learned long ago that in this world, trust was a luxury one couldn't afford. Mia, on the other hand, was barely 16 and had never known a world that wasn't consumed by chaos. She had grown up within the confines of a quarantine zone, a place that promised protection from the infection outside. But promises were just as fragile as the barricades that held the infected at bay. And when the zone was breached, Mia found herself alone and adrift in a hostile world. Their paths crossed amidst the ruins of an old supermarket. Alex had been scavenging for supplies when he heard the unmistakable sounds of a struggle nearby. Cautiously he approached, weapon in hand, ready for anything. What he found was Mia, cornered by a small group of infected, a makeshift weapon clutched in her trembling hands. Against his better judgment, Alex intervened, dispatching the infected with ruthless efficiency. The silence that followed was heavy, the only sounds being their ragged breaths and the distant moans of more creatures. Mia, wide-eyed and breathing hard, muttered a quiet thank you, but Alex was already on edge, scanning the area for more threats. It was only when Mia mentioned her destination, a rumoured safe haven far to the north, that Alex hesitated. He knew the journey would be perilous, filled with infected and treacherous humans alike. But there was something in Mia's eyes, a mix of naive hope and desperate determination, that made him pause. Reluctantly, and with a warning that he wouldn't hesitate to leave her behind if she slowed him down, Alex agreed to escort Mia to the safe haven. And so, an uneasy alliance was formed, born out of necessity and desperation, as the two set off on a journey through the remnants of a world lost to fear and decay. The road ahead was fraught with peril, and every step that Alex and Mia took was a gamble between life and death. The city, once alive with the hum of traffic and chatter of people, now echoed with the ominous moans of the infected and the haunting silence of abandonment. Buildings stood like empty husks, their gaping windows staring blankly at the desolation below. As they navigated the treacherous streets, Alex's experienced eyes were constantly on the move, scanning for threats and plotting escape routes. Mia, though less seasoned, followed suit, her senses heightened by the adrenaline of survival. She marvelled at how Alex moved, his every action deliberate and calculated, a stark contrast to her own frantic instincts. They avoided the main streets, opting for narrow alleys and abandoned buildings that provided cover from both infected and potential hostile survivors. Along the way, Alex shared snippets of survival wisdom with Mia, teaching her how to spot signs of an infected ambush and how to stay silent and unseen. In an old, crumbling apartment building, they found temporary refuge for the night. The place was eerily quiet, with remnants of the life that once thrived there. Faded photographs on the walls, toys scattered on the floor, and furniture covered in a thick layer of dust. As they settled in, Mia couldn't help but ask about Alex's past. "How did you survive all these years?" she queried, her eyes filled with a mix of curiosity and fear. Alex hesitated, his gaze drifting to a faded family portrait on the wall. He wasn't one to dwell on the past, but there was something about Mia's innocence and the trust she placed in him that made him open up. With a heavy sigh, he began recounting tales of his past, of loved ones lost to the infection, and of a world that descended into chaos overnight. He spoke of betrayal, of hard choices, and of the constant fight to hold on to his humanity. Mia listened, her heart aching for the pain etched in Alex's words and eyes. She too had her share of loss, having seen friends and family succumb to the infection or the cruelty of desperate survivors. As the night deepened, they took turns keeping watch, knowing that danger was never truly far away. The shadows of their past hung heavily in the air, mingling with the dust and decay around them. Yet amidst the gloom, a fragile bond was forming between the grizzled survivor and the resilient girl. Unknown to them, their journey was being observed from the shadows. Silent figures, remnants of a group that had once prided themselves on being protectors of the city, watched as Alex and Mia fortified their temporary haven. Their intentions, hidden in the darkness, would soon intersect with the path of the unlikely duo. As dawn approached, Alex and Mia prepared to continue their journey, unaware that the road ahead was about to take an even more dangerous turn. The morning light filtered through the broken windows of the apartment, casting long shadows on the debris-littered floor. Alex and Mia packed their meager supplies, their movements synchronized and quiet. The eerie silence of the city was a constant reminder that safety was an illusion in this new world. As they stepped out into the dim light, Alex's senses were on high alert. Years of surviving had honed his instincts, and though there was nothing immediately amiss, a nagging feeling at the back of his mind warned him that they were not alone. He gestured for Mia to stay close and keep her steps light. They moved through the desolate streets, their path taking them through a labyrinth of abandoned cars and barricades. It was in an old playground, overgrown with weeds and memories of laughter long silenced, that they encountered their first challenge of the day. A small group of infected, drawn to the area by some distant noise, shambled aimlessly among the rusting swings and slides. Alex signaled for Mia to stay back and, with a practiced ease, dispatched the creatures quietly. Mia watched, her heart pounding, as each infected fell, their twisted features finally finding rest in death. With the immediate threat dealt with, they continued their journey north. But Alex's unease grew with every step. There was a sense of being watched, of eyes tracking their every move from the shadows. He kept his suspicions to himself, not wanting to alarm Mia, but remained vigilant. It wasn't until they reached the outskirts of an old warehouse district that Alex's fears were confirmed. A sudden ambush erupted from the shadows as a group of armed survivors surrounded them. They were ragged and desperate, with wild eyes that spoke of hunger and days without rest. The leader, a man with a scar running across his face, sneered at them. "Well, what do we have here?" he taunted, his eyes greedily scanning their backpacks. "Looks like we've got ourselves some wanderers." Mia's heart raced, fear making her limbs feel heavy and unresponsive. Alex, however, stood calm and stoic, his eyes cold and calculating as he assessed their situation. Without warning, Alex lunged at the nearest attacker, his movements swift and brutal. The element of surprise worked in his favor, as he managed to disarm one of the assailants, but the numbers were against him. Just as it seemed the skirmish would turn in favor of the attackers, a series of gunshots rang out from a nearby rooftop. One by one, the attackers fell, confusion and fear etched on their faces. In the sudden silence that followed, Alex and Mia scanned their surroundings, trying to locate their unexpected saviors. A figure appeared on the rooftop, silhouetted against the morning sun. The figure gestured towards a nearby alleyway before disappearing from view. With no time to lose and the sound of more attackers approaching, Alex and Mia hastily retreated in the direction indicated by the mysterious figure. Their hearts pounded in their chests as they navigated the narrow alleys, questions swirling in their minds about who had saved them and why. Breathless and adrenaline surging through their veins, Alex and Mia navigated the maze of alleys until they reached a nondescript door, hidden in the shadows of the decaying buildings. The door creaked open slightly, and a pair of cautious eyes peered out at them. Without a word, the door swung open fully, and they were ushered inside. The interior was dimly lit, the air heavy with the scent of damp and rust. The figure who had led them there was a woman in her 30s, her features hardened by the struggles of survival, but her eyes reflecting a steely determination. She introduced herself as Sophie, and gestured for them to follow her deeper into the hideout. The space was surprisingly well fortified, with supplies neatly organized and walls reinforced to keep out both the infected and hostile survivors. It was clear that this group, whoever they were, had managed to create a semblance of security amidst the chaos. Sophie led them to a common area where a few other survivors were gathered. They looked up as Alex and Mia entered, their gazes a mix of curiosity and wariness. At the head of the room sat an older man with greying hair and a commanding presence. He stood up and extended a hand towards Alex. "Name's David," he said, his voice steady and calm. "I see you've met Sophie. We've been keeping an eye on you since you entered the city. You're lucky we were around to help you back there." Alex, still cautious but grateful for the intervention, thanked David and introduced himself and Mia. He explained their journey and destination, seeking the rumoured safe haven to the north. David listened attentively, nodding occasionally. When Alex finished, David sighed and looked around at his group. "You're not the first ones looking for that safe haven," he admitted. "Many have passed through here with the same hope, but we've yet to hear of anyone making it there." The room grew silent, the weight of their journey and the uncertainty of their destination hanging heavily in the air. After a moment, David spoke up again. "Look, we can't offer much, but you're welcome to rest here for the night, gather some supplies and head out in the morning. We're all in this together after all," he said, his gaze sweeping over the room, lingering on each face. Relief washed over Mia at the prospect of a safe place to rest, even if just for a night. Alex, though still guarded, appreciated the offer and accepted it with a nod of thanks. As the evening wore on, the hideout came alive with quiet conversations and the clinking of utensils as a meagre meal was shared. Mia found herself talking to Sophie, who shared stories of the city before the infection and how their group had banded together to survive. Meanwhile, Alex spoke with David, learning more about the challenges and threats they faced in the city. David explained that his group was comprised of former security forces, emergency responders, and civilians who had chosen to stay and protect what was left of their home. As the night deepened, a sense of camaraderie formed between the weary travellers and their saviours. In a world turned upside down, the connections formed between survivors were tenuous but deeply felt. Yet, amidst the respite, Alex couldn't shake off the feeling that their journey was far from over and that the road ahead held challenges they could not yet fathom. The night passed uneventfully, a rarity in this world of constant threats. Alex and Mia rose with the first light, their bodies still aching but spirits lifted by the brief respite. David's group had generously shared their supplies, ensuring that the duo had enough provisions for the next leg of their journey. Before they departed, Sophie approached Mia, pressing a small, worn-out teddy bear into her hands. "For luck," she said with a sad smile, her eyes reflecting memories of a past long gone. Alex and Mia thanked their hosts and set out once more, the city slowly waking up around them. The early morning light cast long shadows on the streets, the silence broken only by distant, haunting cries of the infected. They moved swiftly, determined to put as much distance between themselves and the city as possible. The journey was arduous, taking them through denser forests and over treacherous terrain. Along the way, they encountered pockets of infected, each encounter a dance with death that left them exhausted and on edge. Days turned into weeks, and the landscape around them began to change. The remnants of the city gave way to vast open fields and sparsely populated towns, each bearing the scars of the outbreak. As they neared the rumoured location of the safe haven, anticipation and anxiety mingled in their hearts. Would they find the sanctuary they sought, or would it be just another shattered dream? The first sign that something was amiss came when they stumbled upon an abandoned campsite. The remnants of a fire smouldered, belongings scattered and left behind in haste. A sense of foreboding gripped Alex as he surveyed the scene, his experienced eyes picking up on signs of a recent struggle. Pressing on, they soon arrived at the coordinates that were supposed to lead them to safety. What they found instead was a scene of devastation. The safe haven, once a thriving community of survivors, had been overrun. Buildings were ablaze, the infected roaming amidst the chaos, and the few survivors that remained were engaged in a desperate battle for their lives. Mia's heart sank at the sight. The hope that had kept her going through the perilous journey extinguished in an instant. Alex, though equally disheartened, knew they had no choice but to keep moving. He grabbed Mia's hand, pulling her away from the chaos and back into the relative safety of the woods. As they retreated, they heard the cries and gunshots fade away, the safe haven becoming just another casualty in a world gone mad. The realization hit them hard. There were no guarantees of safety, no promises of sanctuary that could be kept. Exhausted and demoralized, they trudged on, each lost in their thoughts. The teddy bear that Mia clutched seemed to mock them with its lifeless eyes, a symbol of hope turned hollow. In the silence of the forest, Alex made a silent vow. They had come this far, faced insurmountable odds, and survived. He would not let this setback break them. He would find a way to ensure their survival, no matter the cost. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with dangers and devoid of promises. Yet they moved forward, determined to carve out a place for themselves in this new, unforgiving world. The days that followed were a blur of endless walking, scavenging and evading threats both living and undead. Alex and Mia, battered but unbroken, moved through the landscape with a single-minded determination. Their journey had taught them that hope was a fragile thing, easily shattered but also capable of being reborn from the ashes. As they journeyed further north, the landscape began to change. The ravaged towns and chaotic remnants of civilization gave way to a serene, untouched wilderness. It was as if the infection had not reached these remote parts, leaving the natural world to thrive undisturbed. One day, as the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting the forest in hues of gold and crimson, they stumbled upon a secluded valley. A clear stream ran through it, and the land was fertile and teeming with life. The sight took their breath away, a stark contrast to the destruction they had left behind. Alex surveyed the area, his experienced eyes assessing the natural defences and resources available. Mia, on the other hand, saw the beauty and potential in the place. It was secluded, peaceful, and seemed untouched by the horrors that had befallen the world. "Why not here?" Mia asked quietly, her eyes fixed on the valley below. "Why can't we make this our haven?" Alex looked at her, the weight of their journey reflected in his eyes. He knew they couldn't keep running forever. Perhaps it was time to stop, to build something instead of merely surviving. And so, they decided to stay. The valley, hidden and serene, became their sanctuary. Using the skills they had learned along the way, they built a shelter, fortified the area, and began the slow process of creating a new life for themselves. Word spread among the scattered survivors about a haven in the north, a place where the infection hadn't reached and where people were building a new beginning. Slowly, others began to arrive, each with their own story of survival and loss. Under Alex's leadership and with Mia's unwavering spirit, the community grew and thrived. They learned to cultivate the land, harness the resources around them, and live in harmony with the untouched nature that surrounded them. The once secluded valley transformed into a true haven, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. The teddy bear that Sophie had given Mia found a place in the heart of their new home, a reminder of the journey they had undertaken and the friends they had lost along the way. It served as a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest times there was always a chance for a new beginning. As time passed, the horrors of the infection seemed like a distant nightmare, a stark contrast to the peace they had found. The community grew stronger, and the bonds forged in adversity held them together. The world outside the valley remained uncertain and dangerous, but within its boundaries, life blossomed and hope took root. Alex, Mia, and the others had found their sanctuary, not by seeking an existing haven, but by creating one themselves. In this new world, they had discovered a simple truth. That home wasn't a place you found, but one you built and protected. And amidst the ruins of the old world, they had built something beautiful, a testament to human resilience, hope, and the unwavering will to survive.